Good morning, Vietnam!
Good morning, Vietnam!
Sorry, I've been watching The Office too much. Today, we are going to make one of my favorites, Sloppy Joes. Now, I know you're thinking, Sloppy Joes, what the hell, like, I can just buy Manwich. But we're not doing that, and this is much better. So I want to show you, excuse me, ma'am, can you stop? I want to show you my recipe, make my own sauce, and it's really good. So what you're gonna need is a can of tomato soup. Yes, you heard me right, tomato soup. We're going to chop up a bell pepper. Now, once again, I ordered my groceries from Instacart, so it didn't quite go as planned. I always use green pepper in this recipe, but they gave me red, yellow, and orange, so I guess I'm probably gonna use half of the orange, half the red, and then we're gonna use a onion and some spices and all that jazz, hamburger. I like lean hamburger. You can probably use whatever you want. I really can't figure out the point of Instacart because get down, sir, you are not a counter dog. It seems like they just send you whatever the fuck they feel like, because you don't even know what kind of shit they sent wrong in my order. For one, it was our first day down here. I did not feel like going to Aldi, favorite store, by the way. Did not feel like going to Aldi because it was our first day actually getting settled in down here, and I was like, oh babe, we can order the groceries, it'll be so easy. Place the order, everything looked good, and then it shows up and there's absolutely no meat whatsoever. They didn't send my green peppers, so I'm gonna use half of a red bell pepper and half of an orange pepper. Just for some color. Aesthetically, I like the green a little better in this recipe, but we're in quarantine. Who cares how it looks as long as it tastes good? So, 1 bell pepper in total. I'm using half and half so I can have some color variation. And then either half of a large white onion, or this is pretty small, so I'll probably just use all of it. I'm gonna grab a bowl so I can chop and put these in there. Onions making me cry, but I'm just so fucking bored in this quarantine. All right, so we're coming back with the trusty, not rusty. I was gonna say trusty rusty, but it's perfectly fine. We're coming back with the trusty old weird pan that we didn't know what to do with, and we're going to saute our diced up veggies in some olive oil for about 5 minutes or so, and then we're gonna throw the hamburger in the pot also. Okay, so it's been a few minutes and the veggies are looking good, so now we're gonna go ahead and add in our hamburger. Okay, and I'm adding in the hamburger. Okay, so don't know where we left off. I ran out of space on my phone, but we're just browning up the hamburger. Okay, so now our hamburger is browned up, looking good, veggies good. We're gonna drain the hamburger because it's quarantine, not get fat and shit your pants tomorrow routine, so we don't want greasy hamburger. All right. Okay, so remember to drain it and do this step. Otherwise, you're putting that into your body, which is not good. Okay, so once you've drained your hamburger, you want to go ahead and add it back to the pot. And we're going to make sure we turn it down to about medium, and we're going to work on the sauce. So, my secret ingredient for the best Sloppy Joes ever is 1 can of tomato soup. And then about a 1/4 cup of barbecue sauce. but if you're me, you just eyeball it. So we just stir the barbecue sauce and the tomato soup together, and it's already coming together, starting to look like sloppy joes. And I know you're like, okay, but what's the difference between pulling it out of a can of tomato soup and adding some barbecue sauce or a can of manwich? I don't know, but it's really fucking better, I promise. So we're gonna add a generous amount of garlic powder. I know you've seen how heavy-handed I was on the chicken soup, and we're probably like, oh my God, but this is a little less severe, but about, maybe a little more. Okay, there's the garlic, and we're gonna add just a little bit of salt. And some pepper. Okay, so we're gonna let this get up to a nice little simmer, and then we're going to cover it and let it cook for about 30 to 40 minutes. Just stir it every 10 minutes or so. I went ahead and just moved it to the back burner so that I could go ahead and work on some of the sides, but I did forget an important thing, and that's just a couple good splashes of any kind of just basic hot sauce you have on hand. So while my sloppy joe is actually chilling in there, simmering, and I'm taking a little break, I guess we could talk about how the whole reason I learned to really make this is because sloppy joe is one of Jeremy's favorite foods for whatever reason. Now, I've personally come to love this recipe. This is amazing, but not to toot my own horn. But manwich, like when we first got together, now granted I couldn't really cook yet very well, but when we first got together, it was his birthday, and I asked him what he wanted me to cook him for dinner, and he said sloppy joe, and at that point, that's what that meant, was manwich. His birthday, he wanted manwich. So I'm so glad to have found a replacement recipe. I got it from, well, a lot of my recipes are recipes that I got and modified, and this one came from my grandma. She gave me a beautiful recipe book a couple years ago for Christmas, and that's one thing that I have held on to and brought down here with me, even though we, because we just moved to Tennessee and we could only bring what we could fit in 2 cars between 3 people, and yeah, that was one thing that I brought, was my grandma's recipe book. So it's right inside there. Her sister's husband used to make sloppy joe with tomato soup, and that's where I got that idea from, and it's literally life-changing. So hope you enjoy. So we're gonna get the water boiling for the mac and cheese now. Guess who just figured out that they forgot to order the macaroni noodles on Instacart? Me, bitch, me. Guess we'll be waiting until Jeremy gets home and can bring me some noodles from Walmart. Oh, crocky, mate. But the sloppy devs are coming out amazing. It's wonderful. And if you get bored while you're cooking your sloppy devs, you can just have a dance break. Okay, so Jeremy came home and saved the day with the macaroni noodles. So, I don't really, wow, I'm way out of frame. I don't really measure this whatsoever. This is kind of just by feel and by what I normally do. So. I use maybe like a quarter of the box. We're gonna boil that up and make the mac and cheese. And we're gonna toast some bread for the sloppy joes. So this is what we got today, because Instacart just wants to make substitutions whenever it feels like. Thank God I wasn't trying to make hamburgers, am I right? So we're just gonna pull these out and toast them in the oven on broil for a few minutes to get them a little more sturdy so that they can stand up to the sloppy joe sauce. Ringo is over here crying for his dad, so if you hear dog whining, that would be why. Okay, so we're just gonna take these, pop them in the oven on broil, just until they toast up. And yeah, then we won't be having sloppy joes falling apart. We got the noodles boiling right here. Okay, so we just pulled the nice toasty bread out of the oven. We're gonna get ready to strain our pasta. Okay, so we have the pasta drained and set aside here. Now we're gonna go over here and work on the cheese sauce, and then it's time to eat. Okay, so first things first, we need some butter. And we're gonna put about just that much, couple tablespoons in the pan and let that melt. And then once that's melted, we're gonna add a little bit of flour and milk and get kind of a, I think they call it a roux going. And then we're gonna melt the cheese in. So just let that butter simmer around here. And this is the same pot I boiled the noodles in, so I am just letting, those are strained and sitting over in the counter. And then we're going to go ahead and make this in here and then just dump the noodles back in. I have this on about medium heat, maybe a notch above. So I'm just gonna get this to melt down nice and good. Okay, so my butter's melted. Let's add in the flour. I'm gonna add just about a tablespoon of that. Sprinkle it around the pot. And this gives the cheese something to melt into so that it's not just melted cheese. It gives it, you know, more of a creamy texture. Because you're gonna add some milk to this and it's gonna kind of create like a gravy. And then from there, you gotta melt your cheese into that. So let's start with just a splash of milk. Dump that in, start stirring, add a little more. You see my pot just spinning around? Okay, so now that we have that in there, this is the flour, the butter, and the milk. It's going to start bubbling and thickening up, and at that point we just add another splash or two of milk. Let me make sure you can actually see into my pot because I feel like you can't. Okay, that's kind of a shitty angle, but it's a little better for these purposes. And I'm gonna add a little bit more milk. Now you see it's kind of like a thick gravy consistency. Just add another splash or two of milk. And mix it together. I'll let that kind of bubble and thicken, and then we'll start adding the cheese. I like to keep my macaroni and cheese pretty basic, so we're using sharp cheddar for the main portion, but also so that I just find adding a couple slices of this or a little bit of Velveeta just brings it together and gives it that really creamy, good taste that you can't get from unprocessed cheese. I'm sorry. So we're gonna let the slices of American melt down into this first, and then we'll start adding the sharp cheddar. While I'm letting this melt down in there, I'll go ahead and add some salt and pepper and stuff. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and add just another little splash of milk. Just a little salt. And a little pepper. Keep it stirring, and the American cheese is almost melted in, so that's almost ready for the sharp cheddar. Okay, and we've got a nice creamy texture, so we're gonna go ahead and add a couple handfuls of the sharp cheddar. Start with one really big handful and see where that gets us. It's looking like we might want a little more, and maybe another little splash of milk. You don't want to over milk it, so I'm just trying to be careful here. I'm gonna add another little handful of the cheese in. And we're gonna add our pasta back into it, and it's almost ready. Okay, so you've got a really gooey, nice cheese sauce. We're gonna go ahead and dump our noodles back in. Oh, fuck. And if you just saw that I just got noodles everywhere, then fuck you for not being polite and pretending I didn't do it. Okay, so we've got our stovetop macaroni and cheese looking extra good. And we've got our sloppy joes right here. So we're gonna put this on our toasted buns and serve it up and see what the boys think.
Oh, wow, salty, dude. Oh my god.
I'd be
How's the
pissed.
food, y'all?
It sucks. It's like, nah.
Oh my god. It's just what I needed.